सर जॉइन झाले.
Yes. Good morning to all of you. Today we have the webinar Tuning with Operation Research. All humankind facing a problem of rising population and limited resources. The way of utilizing these resources to in an optimum way to serve the maximum mankind is the main objective of the Operation Research. Today we have the guest Dr. Venkatesh Jonal Gedda sir to twin us with Operation Research. Sir is the director of Quintiles Engineering Consultants LLP Nanded. Sir have 28 years of experience as a faculty at Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Institute of Engineering and Technology Nanded. Sir also having the 6+ years of experience in the industrial consultation. Sir have co-founded the PG programs like MTech in CAD/CAM and MTech in PLM. Sir also provided corporate training to on the topic new product development and supply chain management. Sir have completed the key projects like project management consultation for the Jaggery powder plant erection at Umri, Maharashtra, as well as the cluster development, as well as sir also have developed the software development in the Excel-based software on production scheduling, sequencing, and assembly line balancing. So today we have the very great personality in the field of operation research. So I request you, sir, to start. First of all, I request Dr. Nandurkar, sir, to express his views. Nandurkar, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And on behalf of the Institute, I would like to welcome the speaker, Dr. Venkatesh, as well as all the participants of this program. And I think this is a very important topic for all of us working in the field of production engineering or industrial engineering. And the ideas which will be given over here will be useful for all of us, especially for the staff members, because those who are teaching operation research, they need different models and they have to understand different models and especially the real life problems. And I hope that this particular session, which will be conducted by an eminent professor as well as a consultant, will give us some examples and that we can use very well in our research as well as in teaching. So this is a important topic, and I'm really glad that production engineering department has done this. I have shared this particular link with all the board of study members of production engineering. So I hope that some of the people from other colleges will also join this session and they will also be benefited by the expertise of this particular speaker. As far as the institute is concerned, the production engineering department is started along with the institute in 1984. And we also had ME production program plus PhD production program in this department. And as the institute as a whole, now we are starting 2 new programs. One is the robotics and automation that will be in the production engineering department itself. And second is the AI and ES that will be under the computer department. So these 2 new courses will add to our undergraduate program. The intake will become 900 plus there are 3 PG programs, MBA, MCA and the PhD program in 4 departments. So the institute is marching towards autonomy now, and we hope that if we receive autonomy from the next academic year, we will be able to implement some changes in the syllabus. And of course, at that time, operations research will be an important component of the new syllabus which we will be delivering in autonomy. So I think this is really an important topic and very well selected at the appropriate time, because we are facing a lot of crunch of resources, and how to utilize the resources in a proper way. I think operation research can provide the solution for that. So once again, I welcome all the attendees as well as the speaker for this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your words. Now I request our today's guest to start the session.
Good morning to everyone present here. Special thanks to Nandurkar sir, Pawar sir, Gangurde sir and Sangle sir for arranging this webinar. KK Wag is one of the best known colleges in Maharashtra. I'm aware of it and I have been interacting with a lot of faculty there. It's really a very proud privilege to be associated with the college today. And with these few words on introductory part, I would like to switch over to my presentation, and I'll switch off my video also now. So good morning to all the panelists present here. So friends, I think I'm audible to everyone.
Sir, yes, you are audible, sir.
Sangle, yeah, thank you. So I'm Dr. JVL Venkatesh, as introduced an expert or something like that to operations research. To be very precise, I'm a student of operations research, and basically I love this subject very much. So I love to share my experiences in operations research to all the people possible. And I try to promote this concept of productivity improvement and operations research implementation in industries to the extent possible within my limitations. I have been working, as told to you, I have been working with SGS College and had a very great experience of being young with the student community. And I have been teaching this subject almost for about 28 and a half years, actually. So with actually, I'm trying to share some industrial or maybe pseudo-industrial, I should say, because not exactly all industrial cases would be here. A brief introduction I'll give on operations research, and then I will switch on to some cases. My only idea here is to see that people like me get in love with operations research. So friends, yeah, all of us have some or the other time come up with this problem, that whether all the mathematics that we learn is really used in real life. Okay, I'm definitely one of them, and I feel that most of you will agree that we have been concerned about this, actually, why we are studying mathematics. Okay, so let me start with a few examples here where mathematics is used, and then I'll go to operations research. Everybody is watching IPL nowadays, and the patented, what you can say, patented stroke of cover drive by Kohli, everybody must have seen. If you see the position, the bat's angle, and everything that you see here is definitely made up of mathematics. I don't mean to say that Kohli does a lot of mathematical calculations on the board and then hits the stroke, but on the back of his mind, definitely all these things are there. Through practice, you are actually setting up this mathematics into action. Okay. Similarly, you take any game for that matter, you will be able to see that a lot of mathematics is involved. If you see the different games that I have represented here, you will see that almost all of them require a practice which is based on mathematics. Whether you deliberately bring in mathematics into it or not, mathematics is definitely involved. On a more engineering side, any transport system, any vehicle that you move on nowadays, the design of it is definitely dependent on mathematics. The manufacturing part is also very much dependent on mathematics. We talk of all the infrastructure development, all the highways that you are designing or fabricating, making nowadays, or the buildings, the high-rising buildings that you are making nowadays are dependent on mathematical knowledge. Okay. The interiors, if you go, the heating ventilation systems, the navigation system for that matter, the electricity distribution system, generation also, obviously, even the networks that you have of the computers nowadays, almost everything requires mathematical foundation. Okay. So what I want to say is we would like to actually eliminate the fear of mathematics among the students. We need not be pure mathematicians for that matter. We need not go into the what to say, pure form of mathematics, the derivations and all that, but we must be able to appreciate mathematics and apply it in real life. This is what is the most important part. As far as this mathematics is concerned, I have talked a bit. I'll add two more important aspects into this. Okay. What you need basically is the mathematical ability. As I said, you should be able to understand and apply mathematics. Then the knowledge of the domain's fundamentals is very important. Okay. In whichever area you are working nowadays, you should be able to you should be in a position to apprehend the complete system properly, understand the intricacies. The basics are very important. Okay. Whenever you are having a problem in real life, you should go back to the basics. That is my strong recommendation to all of you. Okay. Particularly the students, I'm saying. Okay. Sorry. So the domain's fundamentals. If I give, I'll be switching over between English and Hindi. I love Hindi also. So थोड़ा बहुत हिंदी में भी बात करूंगा बीच बीच में. तो जब कभी हम लोग किसी एसी का कोई अभी रिसेंटली अग्रवाल साहब ने एक एग्जांपल दिया था कि एसी के लिए इलेक्ट्रिकल वालों से बात करेंगे तो दे विल बी एबल टू design and control all the electrical part of the AC. They will be able to do. But if you ask the same gentleman how much AC, what capacity of AC is required, for example, a 10 by 10 room, then probably he will say, that's not my problem, a mechanical engineer will have to handle it. As a mechanical engineer, if I'm installing some motors or compressor, I know the working of the compressor, I can talk in and out about the compressor, but the power supply that I am talking of, I may not be knowing about the electrical part of it. That doesn't make me a complete engineer. Okay. I need to be knowing the co-curricular things of any engineering domain, and I should be able to apply that knowledge along with the mathematical ability. And on top of all this, what is most important is common sense. If we want to be successful in life, this factor plays a very, very predominant role as regards our application into the real life areas. Okay. So any engineering for that matter is based on these three things is my strong opinion about it. Okay. So mathematical abilities, domain fundamentals knowledge, and then common sense. These we need to add. Okay. So through these examples that I'm going to take, I will try to show you how all these three things are coming into picture. Okay. I'm not going to talk about operations research techniques, the solution methods that are available there. That is not my focus today. I'm just trying to give you some examples wherein these three things will come together. Okay. And of course, operations research is a combination of all three. Okay. It is able to solve very complex problems and have very critical, very good impact on the critical decisions that will be taken. Sir, if somebody wants to speak in between, kindly put a chat, or maybe Sangle sir can control that. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I will start with a simple yet interesting problem, okay, wherein I would like to show you how all the three ingredients that I was talking about will come into play. Okay. I will take up this problem of a maximum volume vessel problem, I'm saying, wherein we are interested in fabricating a vessel that would contain maximum volume of some liquid. Okay. So I want to fabricate a vessel. All that I'm given is a square metal sheet of size, say, B. Okay. Now the question is, sorry. Now the question is, how do we make this into a vessel that will contain maximum volume of some liquid? Okay. Now here I want to tell you that there are two things in this. One, we wish to fabricate a vessel which will hold maximum volume, and two, there are certain limitations on the maximum volume that can be attained. So if we don't have any one of this, either an objective or constraints, then there is no spice in life. Okay. Just imagine you want to achieve something and you don't have any limits on the achievement of that in real life. Okay. You will not be interested in life, right? Similarly, you don't want to achieve anything in life. Even that is a very bad situation. In fact, I would say in the absence of these two, there is no life, in fact. Okay. So now, talking about this, sir, Sangle sir, can we like arrange some interaction with the participants?
Yes, sir.
Chat.
Yes, sir. If a participant want to talk, they can raise their hand and I will unmute them.
No, I would like to ask some questions, for example. तो उनके तरफ से कुछ फीडबैक आता है तो अच्छा रहेगा. इंटरेक्टिव मेरा नॉर्मली इंटरेक्टिव सेशन रखने की आदत रहती है मेरी.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
if it
No
is
problem,
possible.
sir. You can ask. All
Yeah.
participants are requested. They can chat in the chat box.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So now, with this, the shape of the vessel has not been specified in this problem statement. Therefore, we would like to adopt a two-step process in which first step we would like to explore possible shapes for the vessel, and second determine volume of all the shapes. Okay. I would like to go through these two steps without bearing much about the mathematics, but I would like to bring in all the three aspects that I was talking of in the previous slides, right? So now my question to participants is, what are the possible shapes into which this vessel can be fabricated, molded? Yeah, would anybody like to say something?
Kindly answer in the chat box. All participants.
क्लासरूम में भी ऐसे ही होता है.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
We
conical.
don't
Conical
get any
is one answer. We have one answer, that is conical, cylindrical.
Yeah, good, good.
Yeah.
Very good. I could not see any chats here.
Actually, I am controlling it, sir. I will read it for you.
Okay, fine. Okay. So conical and cylindrical are the two answers, right?
Yes.
Great. So now I'll move forward. So one is a conical shape. Another one is a cylindrical shape as mentioned. We can also have a cuboid shape. We can also have a frustum. There can be other alternative shapes also. I have just enlisted 4. It all depends on the creativity of the person who is an operational analyst, who can think about different ideas also. Okay. Now, one by one, I will go through these shapes. Now, if you consider a conical shape, the two adjacent sides have to be folded to bring them together, and then we'll have to cut this portion above the dotted dashed line so that we can form the conical shape, right? Just जैसे अपना कारीगरम वाले पुड़िया बनाते हैं उस प्रकार से सीधा सीधा. Okay. Now, what is the problem in this particular shape? Any comments? Any problems?
Wastage of answer is there. Wastage of paper. That is the
Wastage
upper
of
part.
paper. Okay. Yeah, wastage of metal sheet should be said. Okay. Paper
Yes,
is okay.
yes. Okay.
So wastage is one part. Okay. Anything else? How will this shape stand on it on a single point? How will it hold the liquid? Yeah, there is a problem, right? So that wastage that you are talking of may have to be used to create a stand for this conical shaped vessel. See, here no operations research is going on, right? We are talking of some fundamental domain knowledge, very simple, and applying common sense. This is what I'm trying to convey to you people. Okay. So next stage, we go to the cylindrical one. Okay. Now we can roll over this in such a way that, oh, sorry. Roll this sheet in such a way that we can get a cylinder. what is the problem with this shape? Anybody, please? Hello?
Sir, yes.
Is anybody responding, sir?
Yes, yes, they are responding, sir.
Okay.
Bottom is not closed. That is the one response.
Very good. That,
Okay.
yes, very
Second
good.
response
That's
is
the
need
perfect.
extra material to cover it. Yes.
True, true. Very good, very good. So the point is now we don't have a base to this. It's a hollow cylinder. Correct.
Yes.
Now what we can do is, because I have only the sheet that is given to me of side B, what I have to do is, right, I have to roll the sheet into a smaller cylinder and keep some sheet available to I have to keep some sheet available for making the array. One second, please.
Yes.
Not stopping at the point that I want actually. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll move it like this only. No, sorry. I'm sorry, it's not stopping at that point anyway. Basically what I need to do is use some sheet out, make it a lesser radii or diameter cylinder and use the remaining part of the sheet to provide the base to this particular cylinder so that we can accommodate liquid into this. Otherwise, there will be no holding of the liquid in that. Even that sheet which we cut off may be used to cover the top as well. Okay. Now, the third shape that I'm talking of is a cuboid shape, as I said. We need to cut four sides of the rectangular square sheet that is given and then fold the sheet in such a way that along these lines so that we will be able to make that into a cuboid shape. Right? This is one option. Okay. Now here we will talk about the volume calculation later. Okay. So here this is a very good idea. We can provide good vessel here. Then we go to the next shape, that is the frustum. If you see the difference in the way we cut the sheet and then fold, we will be able to have a frustum also. This probably would be the largest volume to start with, maybe. Okay, guess that is a guess I am saying. Okay, because the amount of sheet that will be wasted here will be minimal. Okay, so now I switch over to the volume determination. Okay, the conical shape that we consider, the volume of this is given by pi r square h by 3. Now, I am not interested in actually communicating the formula here, but I just want to show you one important thing, that is the dependence of these parameters on side B straight away. Okay, h you can be replaced by b cos of alpha. Even r is dependent on b in this fashion. Okay, r and alpha are also dependent. Therefore, all these parameter terms like radius of the cone and the base, what you call the height of the cone, okay, and semicone angle, all these things are dependent on b, and therefore I can roughly represent the volume in terms of b cube, pi b cube by 48. So if I know the size of the sheet, I know the volume directly. I don't have to do any other calculation here. Okay, simply we can compute the volume. Similarly, cylinder. As I was talking, I'll have to leave some sheet here so that it provides for the base. That size of the sheet that we will cut off will have to be minimum equal to the diameter of the cylinder that will be made. Okay. So if the radius of the cylinder is taken as RCY CL, then this diameter, this sheet size should be greater than or equal to 2 times of the radius. Okay. Now this can be again correlated with the value of B that we have. Okay. Now here the diameter, as you can see, that diameter that you can see here is 2r, twice of r. Thus, this sheet size has to be greater than or equal to this. Okay. Now, the sheet that will be left over for making this cylinder will be B minus 2C. That is the maximum sheet that will be available. Okay. So, it's again a part of, we are saying that it should be greater than or equal to the diameter, but exactly equal to diameter will be more better because I'll get a bigger size cylinder in that case only. Okay. If I take the sheet size more than that, then the diameter of the cylinder will go down and thereby the volume will also go down, right? So now what I have is the sheet, the leftover sheet is B minus diameter. This will be equal to the circumference of the cylinder, right? So replacing the terms in the volume expression, I can again get an expression for the volume in terms of B only. Therefore, again, if I know B, volume can be computed very easily. Now let us go to the cuboid shape. As I said, we will be cutting off X amount of, a square, 4 squares of size X, let us say. Okay, that's a variable value now. Okay. What remains as the base is B minus 2X. Therefore, the volume would become B minus 2X, 2X raised to square, B minus 2X square into X. Okay. Here, an important point that I want to communicate is that the value of X is not directly related to B. Okay. It's an independent parameter. I can vary X and accordingly I can get different base size of the cuboid shape. Okay. And what I know only is that X can vary between 0 and B by 2. Both are excluded. Okay. If X is equal to 0, I'm not cutting any sheet. If X is equal to B by 2, then I'm not remaining with any base. Okay. I'm not left out with any base. So both of them are not possible. So now this is the restriction on the value of X. You can say it's a constraint in terms of the language of operations research. So now I have a problem on hand wherein I have to maximize the volume, okay, of the cuboid subjected to the condition that X will have to vary between 0 and B by 2, both excluded, right? This is a optimization problem. Earlier two cases, we could directly calculate the value of the volume. Similarly, frustum, if you see, the volume of the frustum is given by this expression, okay? And here, h of the frustum, height of the frustum, can be computed from the value of x, the side angle, side height, okay, slant, what you can say, side of the slant edge, and the diameter of the top portion and the bottom portion, diagonal of the both of them. Okay. So now these two values, if I put, it will be x square minus c minus a whole square by 2, right? And again, x can be computed using this trigonometry here. If you see on this side, I'm posting it. So it is again dependent on a, b, and c. Okay. So I can replace that expression of x here, and I will get a representation of h in terms of a, b, and c only. Okay. So now, if you see the expression of volume, I have replaced h with an expression like this. So now I have a function in terms of a and c, which both are variables now. Okay, I can have different base size. Top of the frustum will be varying. Okay, accordingly, I can cut the sheet in such a way that I can have different combinations of a and c again. Okay, so now this becomes the expression which needs to be maximized. This is our objective now. Okay, and the constraints will again be on the size of a and c. Okay, a has to be greater than 0, less than c, and c has to be less than b, like that. Okay, so these are two constraints actually, or 4 constraints to be precise. Okay, so in summary, what I would like to say is that for a conical and cylindrical shape vessels, maximum volume achievable can directly be computed from the sheet size, whereas for the other two shapes, I'll have to solve some problem, mathematical model, okay, to obtain the maximum volume. At this point, if there are any questions, I would like to answer that. Sangle sir,
Yes, sir. Yes. All
कुछ
participants, if you
क्वेश्चंस
have
हैं
any
क्या?
question, नहीं अभी तो नहीं है कुछ.
नहीं है ना?
I will
So
convey
I
you,
shall
sir.
proceed further then.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right. That is yes, right. मतलब कैसा है सर, एक टीचर को फीडबैक रहा ना तो थोड़ा सा कंफर्टेबल फील करता है, इसलिए बीच बीच में सवाल पूछते रहता हूँ मैं. So if there are any questions, please let me know. Right. Okay. So now I'll not go into the solution techniques here, but I would like to just tell you about the calculus that will go into this. This cuboid shape, okay, has got a single variable in it, whereas this has got two variables in it. Okay, it's a two variable problem. This is a single variable problem, optimization problems. Okay. Both of them are constrained optimization problems. Now the calculus that is involved for a single variable problem is something like this, I would like to say. Now we are talking about the function. Now let us say this is the shape for the function that we are talking of volume. Now this is a minimization type. What we are actually interested in a maximization of the volume. So Gx may be considered to be the volume that we are talking of. Okay, but still you can have functions wherein you can find the minimum value. You can have functions where you find out the maximum value. Okay. So how do we do that normally? We take the first derivative, equate it to 0, and then take the second derivative and see that whether it's positive or negative, and then we say that the function is either having a minima or a maxima, right? Now in this case, at this point, we have a minimum. Okay. Taking a derivative means what? Taking a slope at all the points along this line, right? Along this curve. Okay. So if I take a slope, derivative, I get the slope. Here the slope is negative. The negative value of the slope is going down here. It becomes 0 at this point, like here, and then it goes on increasing in the positive direction. Right? So this is the function now I have for the derivative of fx. Okay. If I take derivative of this function, that is the second derivative of the original function, then I will obviously have a positive valued 0 slope line in the second derivative, right? So what it means that if I have a minimization, means if I'm taking a first derivative equal, when I equate it to 0, I'm getting a point where which is either a minima or a maximum. Actually, when I talk, the slope will be same here. Here also slope will be 0, right? So first derivative equal to 0, but second derivative when it is positive, then you are sure that the problem is having a minima at that point. Okay, or the function is having a minima at that point. Similarly, if you see for the maxima case, the slope at this point here, it's positive, goes on in decreasing, becomes 0, and becomes negative on this side, goes on increasing on the negative side here. Again, at this point, the slope is 0. If you take the second derivative here, you will have a negative valued 0 slope line again here as the second derivative. So for minimization, first derivative has to be equal to 0, second derivative has to be positive. For maximization, you have 0 first derivative, negative valued second derivative. You may not always be lucky to end up with the problem in the second derivative only. Inflection points and all these will have third order differentiation also. There are number of cases. Whenever you end up with a even derivative being either positive or negative, you can conclude that it's a minimization or a maximization problem. If the third odd ordered derivative is coming out to be positive or negative, then you have an inflection point, something like that. Okay, I'll not deliberate much on that. You can refer to the books there, but I just wanted to share you what is the concept behind the calculus that we are talking of. Okay. Now, a simple example that we'll take of a parallel flow heat exchanger. Okay, Again, as I said, I'm more interested about the mathematics, the domain knowledge of this. Okay. Now here, I want, obviously, any parallel heat exchanger, most of us are attending this program are mechanical or production engineers. So we all know that heat exchangers, the idea is basically to take away the heat transfer, means take away the heat from the fluid or any surface. I'm sorry. So obvious objective here is to maximize the heat flow rate, right? Let us say a shell is there and there are multiple individual tubes in it. Okay. I want to find out the diameter of the tubes in such a way that the heat exchange is maximized, heat transfer rate is maximized. There are certain design limitations, all this that I'm telling is normal, not normally given on a platter for you when you go into the industry. This you will have to find out by yourself actually. The smallest diameter of the tube that we can take is 0.5 centimeters radius. Then all tubes must be of the same size and the maximum cross-sectional area is limited to 2000 centimeters square. Okay. Now our job is to find out number of tubes and radius of each tube. Okay. Now this is a parallel flow heat exchanger example. There, from the domain we talk about, there are no heat losses through the atmosphere. We are making some assumptions. We also presume that there is no conduction through the tube that we are considering here. We are considering it to be a totally convective heat transfer situation. Okay. The expression for this heat transfer rate here is given like this. Okay. Now, because the problem is known, okay, what I'll consider is that the U and delta TLM are the log magnitude temperature difference, okay, log mean temperature difference is constant, okay. I'm focusing only on area because my job is to find out the number of tubes and the cross-sectional area for them. So, considering all other points as constant, my problem now just becomes Z is equal to N into pi DOL. This is the circumference and this is the number of tubes. Okay. Now this is the objective which I want to maximize. If I maximize this, this will automatically get maximized. This is subjected to the two constraints. One, DO. We are given that the radius has to be minimum of 0.5. So DO has to be 1. And then N pi DO square, the denominator 4 has been shifted to the right hand side. Therefore, instead of 2000 square centimeter, we have 8000, the less than or equal to 8000 here. Okay. Now, N and DO obviously have to be greater than or equal to 0 also, right? These are some conditions which have to be put in the mathematical model so that the mathematical model gives us the right results. Okay. In case of DO, I need not specify maybe greater than or equal to 0 because it's already greater than or equal to 1. But N should not come out to be negative in an effort to trying to maximize the DO. Okay. Anyway, that is not the part of the discussion. So now we have a problem in which there are two variables. Okay. Whenever we are talking of two variables, we talk of the gradient when we are talking of calculus. Okay. This is the gradient vector. What we are doing is we are taking partial derivative with respect to N and a partial derivative with respect to DO, and both of them have to be equal to 0. Okay. The gradient vector has to be 0 if I want to have either a maximum or a minimum. Okay. And for the maximization, similar to what we did in the calculus for a single variable problem, the first derivative has to be 0, and the second derivative in this case is called as a Hessian matrix. Okay. Here, if you see, all second derivative terms are coming in picture. Okay. This has to be negative definite Hessian. Okay. Now, I will recommend those who don't know about Hessian matrix, kindly refer to the literature. You will find out what is the meaning of this negative definite. Okay. And from there, for maximization problem, this has to be negative definite. For a minimization problem, this has to be positive definite. Okay. Like this, we use calculus for solving the problem. This part of optimization. Okay. Now I will take up some problem cases. As I said, I don't know how much time I'm able to continue, but the sample problems I have considered 4 different types of problems. One of them is a linear programming problem. I will take a quick look at the decision theory. Then these remaining 2 multi-facility planning problem and assembly line balancing problems are big problems. Let us see how much time we can continue here and then accordingly go ahead. Sir, one thing I would like to ask is, are the people enjoying it basically?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sure.
Yes, sir. We are enjoying, sir. Please
It
continue.
should not be going mono. Okay. Fine. Yeah, fine. So a linear programming problem that I'm going to talk here is a industrial case actually. Okay. मतलब format किया है, you will find similar problems in the real life environment. Okay. So the trim loss problem is something like this. Okay. We have a master role of some standard. Here I'm considering 200 meters, which has to be cut into sub roles of different widths, such that those sub roles which have different demand, that has to be met. Okay. Role length of the master role and the sub roles has to be same. Okay. Lengthwise cutting is not required. Okay. Then data related to the sub roles is given in the table that I'm going to show. What we are interested in minimizing the trim loss here. Okay. So the roles that were different dimensions as well as the corresponding demand that is mentioned for the sub roles is presented here. Okay. We want 200 units of 35 centimeter width sub role, like that, different things. Okay. This problem actually I have given a very detailed presentation on the YouTube channel that I have created, Vishwakarma Academy. If you search for Vishwakarma Academy and operations research combination, you will come to my YouTube channel and you can see there are. I could make some videos for linear programming so far, introductory topics on operations research as well as linear programming. Some topics I could make the videos so far. I'll be making more videos and putting them there. I will try to cover the maximum syllabus as possible in that. That is basically meant for students, okay? But I'm trying to give it as much industrial perspective as possible for me, so that it becomes more interesting for the students. So you interested people may please visit Vishwakarma Academy for operations research videos. So one part of that I'm considering here. I am not taking the full part because otherwise we'll not be able to complete the presentations that I have prepared. So now here, this is the situation. We have a master role here, okay, of some standard width, which will be cut by using a cutter which is positioned on the mandrel. Okay. Cutters on, that is how in industry we can place the cutters, different cutters at different positions, depending on how many number of each type of sub role is required. Each width sub role is required. Okay. For example, if I put a single cutter on this and position it in such a way that I cut one sub role of 80 width sub role and one of 120. Okay. Then what happens is there is no loss, wastage of the sheet in this case. I'll be able to cut without any wastage. Right? Similarly, if I take two cutters, then if I take two cutters, then okay, let it be. So I can cut one of 80, one of 90, or I can cut off two of 90, different combinations I cut. I'm taking an example here of 180 and 190. What happens in this case is we are left out with some sheet of 30 centimeters width. Now this width cannot be used for any of the required sub roles, right? Therefore, this will go as a wastage. Okay, this is a scrap, you can say, and that is called as trim loss in our case. And we can put it like this. If you see here in this table, the second cutting alternative that I am considering is 80 sub-roll, 90 sub-roll, and then what is left is a wastage of 30. Similarly, now of course I talked about trim loss, I'll skip this. More cutting alternatives can be obtained by combining different alternatives. 2 sub-rolls of 90 will result into like this, something like this, trim loss of 20, and 1 of 80 and 1 of 30, so 2 of 80 and 1 of 35 will result in a trim loss of 5. Okay. What is the objective here? We want to minimize the wastage. Okay. We want to minimize the trim loss. Now, if you see in this case, what data we had is a master sub-roll of 200 centimeters and the demand for the different sub-roll widths. This table that of the cutting alternatives we had to generate. Okay. This table we had to generate. This is not a complete, complete list of cutting alternatives actually. Okay. This is just for example, at random I have taken something. Okay. There has to be a very structured way, which I said, as I said, it is available in the video. Many of you might have seen it also already. It could be a repetition for those who have seen the video earlier. Okay. So these are the 4 alternatives that I'm considering, and based on this, I will try to make a small LP model here. Sorry. Let us consider that the number of times each cutting alternative is used is taken as the decision variable. Now, I am presuming that all those who are attending are either knowing operations research, they have studied about LP, so they know decision variables, they know objective function. This is my presumption. Am I okay with that?
Yes, sir. This is right, sir. Right presumption.
Right. Okay. So with this, the decision variable will be how many times each of the cutting alternative should be used, so that I would like to actually only use cutting alternative 1 because the wastage is 0 here. But in that case, what will happen is I will be able to manufacture, produce only 120 centimeters width sub-roll and 80 centimeters. I will not be able to manufacture 35 and 90, whereas the demand is there for those sub-rolls as well. Okay. So I have to make a combination of the different cutting alternatives, and at the same time, I have to see that the trim loss is minimized. So my decision variable is how many times each cutting alternative should be used, so that the demand is met, at the same time we minimize the trim loss. So the expression for that now becomes 0 into x1. x1 is for the number of times I use cutting alternative 1, like that. So 30 into x2 plus 20 into x3, 5 into x4. This is the objective which we want to minimize. What are the constraints now? 35 width sub-roll, I need 200 units. How many are getting produced in this case for me from different cutting alternatives? 1, 0, 2, 0, 3 also producing only 0 of 35, whereas 4 is producing 1. So x4 has to be greater than or equal to 200. Otherwise, my demand of 35 centimeter sub-roll will not be met, right? Similarly, I have to write expressions. So 0x1 plus 0x2 0x3 plus x4 has to be greater than or equal to 200. Similarly, I have to write for others also. Fine. Now, this is, as I am saying, this is an incomplete objective function, incomplete sample constraints, because all the cutting alternatives have not been listed in this case. Okay. The model, which is again, as I said, incomplete, for considering only these 4 cutting alternatives, can be represented like this. The objective is summation of the wastages multiplied by the number of times each cutting alternative is used, and similarly for constraints for each of the sub-rolls demand. And x1, x2, x3, x4 all have to be greater than or equal to 0. We cannot use any cutting alternative negative number of times. That is quite obvious. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of the linear programming problem that I wanted to just communicate to you. Okay. What I am trying to convey through this. I hope because of the time that I'm looking at the watch continuously, so I'm trying to skip some things. But what message I'm trying to convey to you is mathematics is required, definitely. You need to have the knowledge of the domain also. In a trim loss problem, we need to understand that how we are going to cut the sheet, okay? How we are going to position the cutters on the mandrel. All this domain knowledge, information, fundamentals, we have to know, okay? Similarly, for the heat transfer problem also that we consider. And we have to use common sense everywhere, okay? All these things combination is operations research, in my opinion. If somebody wants me to define operations research, I will define it in that way. Now, a different type of thing that I will talk of is decision theory. I'll very quickly go through the decision theory part. I'm considering a single facility location problem here. Okay, what I mean to say is that if I want to position a retail shop near the customers, okay, I have a society, and in the society presently there is no retail shop, okay, a grocery shop for that matter, or a dairy for that matter. So I want to position, okay, in that location, the houses are distributed in a typical manner. So what is the best place to locate that dairy or the grocery shop? If there are multiple societies, if I want to cater to all those societies, where do I position that retail shop? Like this, location problem of a single facility we are talking. In industry, obviously, there are a lot of examples here, actually. Industry warehouse location, okay? Even the manufacturing plant's location depends on a lot of factors which are considered under facility location problem. Let us consider a very simple example wherein three retailers are there. I want to position a distribution center which will cater to the requirement of each of these retailers. There are three retailers. The requirement of each retailer is like, say, R1, R2, R3. How do I go about solving this problem? Any suggestions, by the way? Where should I locate the distribution center which will cater to the requirement of all three? Okay, I presume
One
there are
answer
no
is a
suggestions.
centroid, sir. Centroid.
Simple, fundamental, very simple. Okay, so we consider that this is a two-dimensional space that we are talking of. XY coordinates, I put it here. Okay, and XY coordinates, I put it here. What I do is find out x1, y1, x2, y2, and x3, y3 for each one, and compute the center of gravity, okay, or centroid, as you said, for all these three. Considering that these requirements are the weights, let us say, okay, masses distributed at various locations. Simple logic. There are different techniques, obviously. I'm just considering a very simple case so that we go into the decision theory part. So this is how you compute, right? Considering them the requirements to be weights, you can find out the coordinates of the facility, and that will be positioned somewhere here, let us say. It will be able to minimize the travel distance or traveling for the customers also, something like that. Now, capacity decision that we want to take. What should be, now we have decided that we will place a distribution center at this center of gravity, let us say, centroid, let us say. What should be the capacity of this? The requirements that are given, R1, R2, R3, we should simply add those requirements, right? And have the capacity of the DC is like that. But unfortunately, these requirements are not constant always, okay? And we may not be able to actually judge how much would be the requirement at a particular day or a week or a month or something like that. So my decision depends on something which is very uncertain in manner. And there comes in the role of decision theory, okay? I'm considering a situation where I have three design alternatives. I can have a small facility, I can have a medium facility, I can have a large facility. And I'm considering that there are only two states of nature here. wherein there is a low demand, there is a high demand. Okay. The probability of low demand and a high demand is also given here. 35% of the time we have low demand, 65% of the time we have high demand. So if the design alternative that I choose is small, then even if with the low demand I earn 8 units of money, this is the gain. Okay. With high demand also I earn 8 only. If I go for medium and the demand is low, my earnings go down because my investments are going high. Okay. The earnings become 5, but if the demand is high, I earn more. Similarly for large, if I put a large and the demand comes out to be low, then I am actually losing money. Whereas with high demand, I'm going to earn more. Now this decision, I have to take a decision. What should be the capacity of the distribution center that I'm thinking of putting here? Okay. Now you can consider a grocery shop, you can consider a manufacturing setup, you can consider a warehouse. You see the impact of the decision that you are going to take here on the overall supply chain that we can think of. Okay. Now decision theory, what it does is it lists all the decision variables and the corresponding states of nature in form of a tree diagram. Okay. If I choose small, low demand, I earn 8. High demand, I earn 8. Okay. And like this, it does for all the 3 design alternatives. And now it finds out what is called as the expected value of the earning for all the 3 cases. Okay. Now the expected value for all small, medium, and large would be something like this. If I put up a small thing and the demand is 35% times low, then I'll earn 0.35 into 8. Similarly, 0.65 into 8. The addition here is going to be 8 only because both the values are 8 here. Then 0.35% of the time, 35% of the time I have 5 as the earning and 65% of the time I have 15 earning. So the expected value of earning, if I put up a medium, this thing is 11.5. Expected value is normally computed as NPN, okay, summation of NPN, where N is the possible outcome and Pn is the probability of that. Okay, as many options are there, for all of them you add N into Pn. Okay, so this is how you find out the gain that I can get by putting up a medium size capacity facility. I am sorry. So for large, because it's minus 11, this is going to be negative. This is going to be positive. I'm going to earn 10.5. This is the expected value. What will be the actual earning? I'm not sure. Okay. Which one should I select? It's very obvious. The medium size will have the largest expected gain, and therefore I should prefer this. Okay. Now, if I put up this facility and I find out that all the probabilities that I have considered earlier were wrong, and most of the time the demand is going to be low. After putting the facility, then I am in a big problem. So I should check whether this decision that I am taking is valid for a large amount of, whatever range of variation in the probability values. That is done like this. Let us say, we call it as a sensitivity analysis. You will study about sensitivity analysis in linear programming also. This is one type of sensitivity analysis that I'm talking of. Now, for small, this is 8 and 8. So this axis, okay, I have not shown the axis. This axis will have the probability, okay. If full probability low 1, even then my earning is 8. High demand also full probability 1, my earning is 8, no change. So flat line goes for expected value of the small facility. Medium facility, oh sorry, it's the other way, sorry. Okay. So high demand is full probability here. Okay, 0 for low probability. P1 is low here, P low, 0. So high value of the probability, full probability for the high demand. Okay, this is 1 here. Then I have a value of 15 here, and I plot a value of 5 here and connect these two lines. Okay. these 2 points by a line. Right? This is the expected value, that is the variation for a medium-sized facility. Okay. I hope there is no confusion here. Here, the low demands probability is 0 here, and low demands probability is 1 here. So obviously, the high demands probability is 1 here, and high demands probability is 0 here. Okay. So if I have high demand, then the medium capacity of gain is 15, and here it is 5. So this will connect. Similarly, 22 minus 11 will connect. Okay. These 2 points I will connect for the large. I'm interested in maximizing the gains, and therefore I will have to think of having something above this all the time, right? Therefore, this is the base above this. Okay. Now, minimum I must have this much. So I will consider this variation from here to here. Okay. What is the probability that we are getting here? 0.3403. This is computed. Okay. And I'm just putting it here. 0.3403 to 0.7. So this excess is actually for the probability of low demand, right? So if the probability of low demand varies from 0.34 to 0.7, even then the decision of having a medium size facility is correct. Get the point? Beyond 7, you should go for 7. Beyond 0.7 probability for low demand, you should go for a small facility. For low probability, low demands probability being less than 0.34, you should go for this. So if I take a decision to go for medium facility, it's valid for 0.34 to 0.7. So now I'm comfortable. Okay. काफी सारा चेंज भी आया प्रोबेबिलिटी में, तो मेरा जो डिसीजन है वो बहुत गलत नहीं होने वाला है. Okay. This is how I go ahead doing the analysis. Any questions on this?
No, sir.
Okay.
There is no question. Yes, till now.
Okay. Okay. So sir, how long do I have time now? Actually 11:10 हो गए हैं, तो बहुत ज्यादा देर भी नहीं चलना चाहिए.
Okay, sir. Then it's fine, sir. We will refer. Actually, we are already referring your YouTube channel, sir. Our student are referring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. हाँ. तो एक्चुअली मैं सोचता हूँ कि 1 घंटे से ज्यादा हम लोगों ने कोई भी सेशन नहीं लेना चाहिए.
Right, sir.
मैं प्रिपेयर करके तो रखा हूँ, लेकिन अभी ये शेयर करने जितना मुझे सिचुएशन दिख नहीं रही है.
Okay.
तो व्हाट डू यू सजेस्ट? गांगुर्डे सर, सांगले सर, क्या बोलते हो आप लोग?
Okay, sir, it is fine now. Can you share the
Fine,
link? Yes, sir. Can you share the link of the YouTube channel?
Okay.
Hello?
Okay. हाँ. एक सेकंड सर, एक सेकंड. सर अभी जो मैं प्रेजेंटेशंस दे रहा हूँ ये सारे के सारे वो YouTube पे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. ओके. These
Okay.
presentations are totally different.
Okay.
हाँ. Only one part, one linear programming जो प्रॉब्लम लिया था ना मैंने, उतना ही
Trim
वहाँ का
loss.
है एक्चुअली, बट आई विल शेयर दैट, नॉट ए प्रॉब्लम.
Okay.
हाँ, ट्रिम लॉस वाला जो बताया था, हाँ वही है वहाँ का, बट आई विल जस्ट शेयर. आई विल शेयर दैट. Oh, okay. I'll have to actually log in into a different. Just give me a moment. Meanwhile, if the students have any questions, they can come forward. और मतलब whoever students ही जरूरी नहीं है, कोई भी कौन-कौन join हुए भी मुझे थोड़ा idea नहीं है actually. So
I request all participants to ask the question in the chat box.
बहुत कॉमन डायलॉग मारते रहते हैं हर टीचर, या तो सब समझ गया या तो कुछ नहीं समझा. मैं नहीं बोलूंगा वैसा.
Okay. ओके, एक क्वेश्चन आया है सर.
I hope
shall
it
I
was
read?
received.
Yes sir, एक क्वेश्चन है.
Yeah.
मैं read करता हूँ. I wanted to ask that what is the scope of MBA in operation research? How to apply our knowledge while seeking job if we do the MBA in OR?
ओके, देखिए, MBA क्या डिग्री कर रहे हो इससे ज्यादा, मतलब MBA तो अच्छा है ही, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. If you are talking in terms of how I am going to get a better job using MBA of OR, I am not the right person to answer that, but because basically that has never been my prime focus. Getting a job is never my prime focus. Okay, for the students also, I am telling you, all the students who are attending this session, take my word, you should not be a job seeker, you should be a job provider. Okay, at the age of 51, if I can quit my job of a 1.5 to 1.75 lakhs per month job and start my own consulting, and even I'm thinking starting a industry of my own now, तो आप लोगों ने मेरे से कुछ इंस्पिरेशन लेना चाहिए, ऐसा मुझे लगता है. ओके, एंड स्टार्ट थिंक ऑफ गेटिंग ए जॉब. ओके, नाउ स्टॉप थिंकिंग ऑफ गेटिंग ए जॉब एक्चुअली. ओके, लेकिन मैं आप लोगों को ये बोलना चाहूंगा, ऑपरेशंस रिसर्च जो है वो इस प्रकार से देखो कि कोई भी एरिया रहने दो, राइट फ्रॉम व्हाट यू ईट, ओके, राइट फ्रॉम व्हाट यू ईट to all the financial budgeting decisions that the finance ministers make, everywhere this is required. There is no area where OR is not required. Okay, हर जगह लगता है, हर फील्ड में लगता है. So I will strongly recommend कि आप जो भी कर रहे हो उसके साथ में OR रहने दो आपके. Okay, if you are going to a specialist into OR, fine, great, that is no problem about it. Okay, MBA, MBA या IT, अभी आप में से काफी लोग, आप लोगों ने पूछा नहीं लेकिन फिर भी मैं बोलना चाहूंगा, आप में से काफी लोग IT फील्ड में जाके जॉब करेंगे फाइनली, राइट? एम आई राइट?
Yes sir, yes.
सर, आपका क्या ट्रेंड है?
Yes sir, यही ट्रेंड है. IT
जॉब्स IT में ही है, कहाँ है?
Yes yes, जॉब IT में ज्यादा है
तो
as compared to this course. Yeah.
हाँ, या सो व्हाट आई से इज, आपका जो डोमेन है, मैकेनिकल डोमेन वाले लोग, मैक्सिमम मैकेनिकल प्रोडक्शन वाले, कुछ साल यार इंडस्ट्री में हाथ काले करो आप लोग पहले. ओके, वहां का नॉलेज लो. ओके, क्या हो रहा है ये मेरा यूर चैनल बोल के क्यों नहीं आ रहा है यहाँ पे? कैन यू सी माय स्क्रीन सर?
Yes sir, yes. Your screen is visible. Okay, click
तो
on
यहाँ
YouTube.
पर
सर
मुझे
आप चैट बॉक्स में भी डाल देंगे ना तो भी चलेगा सर, कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं.
मतलब मैं जस्ट लिंक निकालने की
हाँ.
कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. पहले बात
मैं तो
करते
फिर
करते वो लिंक निकालने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ और कुछ नहीं. हाँ तो, हाँ सॉरी, हाँ आगे सॉरी सॉरी सॉरी, आई वाज क्लिकिंग ऑन द रॉन्ग बटन बात करते करते. ओके, आएगा. हाँ, तो मैं क्या बोल रहा था, कुछ कुछ साल आप जो है अपने डोमेन के एरिया में जॉब करो या एक्सपीरियंस लो, उसके बाद ही आईटी में जाओ. इवन फॉर एमबीए द सेम थिंग अप्लाइज. मैनेजमेंट कब करना चाहिए बेटा, कब करना चाहिए, तो आपको उस फील्ड की जानकारी बेसिकली है तो, राइट. और उस फील्ड की जानकारी आपको कब मिलेगी, जब आप उस एरिया में थोड़े दिन काम करोगे, राइट. अरे यार, नहीं, आई विल शेयर सेपरेटली सर. ये कुछ तो क्या दूसरा मेरा मेघा वेंकटेश वाला लॉगिन खुला है ना, तो उसकी वजह से वो बार बार उधर ले जा रहा है मुझे.
चलेगा सर, बाद में हम सर्कुलेट कर देंगे.
शेयर कर देता हूँ आपको, है ना.
हाँ चलेगा. सर.
तो हाँ, yeah, so what I'm recommending is like even for management, before going into MBA you first do some job and then operations. अभी फॉरेन कंट्रीज में तो बहुत ज्यादा रिक्वायरमेंट है ये सब फील्ड की. इंडिया में वो कल्चर अभी कैसा है, बात करते हैं लोग मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, लीन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और बातें करते हैं, लेकिन एक्चुअल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के टाइम पे जब सिचुएशन आती है तो लोग नॉर्मली वो भूल जाते हैं, वो रोज की फायर फाइटिंग रहते हैं वो लोग. ओके, so you can definitely do operations research as your MBA course, but first before that I will recommend कि आप कुछ इंडस्ट्री में एक्सपीरियंस करो और फिर बाद में करो. इंजीनियरिंग, कोर इंजीनियरिंग वाले लोगों ने कोर इंजीनियरिंग में रहना चाहिए, ये मेरा स्ट्रॉन्ग ओपिनियन है. आई होप मैं आपको बहुत ज्ञान पिला की बात कोशिश नहीं कर रहा हूँ. सर, एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस प्लीज?
No, sir. No, sir.
सांगळे सर, अगर मैं इसको मेघा वेंकटेश को साइन आउट कर दूं तो कोई इशू नहीं है ना?
नहीं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं सर. You can.
मतलब जो तो इसका हाँ, तो मैं इसमें कोशिश करता हूँ फिर ये.
Okay.
हाँ, ओके. हाँ,
Okay.
तो टॉपिक के बारे में कोई कुछ रिएक्शंस नहीं आया सर? क्या बोल रहे लोग? मतलब समझा नहीं समझा, व्हाट इज गोइंग ऑन?
बोल रहे
No,
सर.
sir. Very nice session, sir. Very nice session, and you demonstrated through practical examples
One
these
more
three
time.
aspects of operation research. That is the mathematical formulation, then domain knowledge and common sense. So these three aspects you have demonstrated very nicely, and of course these things are very much required to make any kind of decision. So thank you, sir, for providing very thoughtful insights into this important subject.
Thank you, sir. I hope some professor is speaking actually.
Yeah, Dr. Pawar speaking.
Dr. Pawar sir is speaking.
पवार सर, ओके, पवार सर
Yes.
सॉरी. ओके
Yes.
ओके ओके. यहाँ मुझे विजिबल नहीं हो रहा था. हाँ. तो आपके पास भी हमारे जैसे ही बच्चे हैं, बात नहीं करते कुछ.
नहीं सर, बच्चों के भी कमेंट आ रही है. द डेमो इज वेरी एक्चुअली डेमोज ऑफ प्रैक्टिकल एग्जांपल्स आर वेरी ट्रूली वैल्यूएबल सर.
अच्छा, ओके, गुड. मतलब प्रॉपर्टी और इतना ही जानना था मुझे, इसके लिए पूछ रहा था सर मैं.
ओके. नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट
सर ये लिंक मैं बाद में शेयर करता हूँ.
चलेगा सर.
चलेगा सर. आई रिक्वेस्ट डॉक्टर एसआर गांगुडे सर टू गिव द वोट ऑफ थैंक्स.
Okay. So today we received one thought: without objectives and constraint, there is no life. So on behalf of KK Wagh Institute of Engineering Education and Research and Department of Production Engineering, I am thankful to Professor Dr. JVL Venkatesh, who is my teacher, for accepting our invitation for this webinar on tuning into operation research and guiding our students, faculty and some industry personnel. In future also we will have a fine tuning with your program, sir. I am thankful to Dr. Principal Dr. Nandurkar sir for motivating us to take the webinars on different topics. I am thankful to HOD Production, all the staff members and students of various engineering colleges for their participation. And I am also thankful to Professor Sangle for providing the technical support for conducting this type of webinar. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Venkatesh, sir.
थैंक्स अ लॉट टू एवरीवन. स्पेशल थैंक्स टू सांगड़े सर. आपने काफी स्मूथली ऑपरेट होने जैसा सिस्टम प्रोवाइड करके दिया. सो थैंक्स अ लॉट नांदुरकर सर, पवार सर, एवरीवन. थैंक्स अ लॉट.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, how do I exit this now?